So I want to go back to more of Pompeo's speech and stay on this theme of his attempts to address the Iranian people.
Iran continues to be, during the JCPOA, the world's largest sponsor of terror. It continues to serve as sanctuary for al-Qaeda, as it has done since 9/11, and remains unwilling to bring to justice senior al-Qaeda members residing in Tehran. Today, we ask the Iranian people, is this what you want your country to be known for? For being a co-conspirator with Hezbollah, Hamas, the Taliban, and al-Qaeda? The United States believes you deserve better.
That was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. So Eskandar, can you address the claim there about the Iran being a conspirator with al-Qaeda and the Taliban? It strikes me that he has it inversely, that actually Iran has been fighting both those factions for a long time. Whether or not some al-Qaeda figures may have passed through Iran at a certain point, a development that was used to accuse Iran of harboring the group.
Yes, I'm sure you recall maybe the Foundation for Defense of Democracies actually using Pompeo when he selectively leaked parts of certain documents which were obtained at Osama bin Laden's residence. And a sort of a selected part of this Arabic document was released and then published by the FDD. And this was used to sort of imply that Iran had some long established relationship with al-Qaeda. Anyone who actually could read Arabic and could actually read the document could see that this was actually baseless, and that often they were at odds with one another. And this is obviously the case. I mean, and we've seen sort of Iran has actually been working with the United States to defeat Daesh, and obviously with the Syrian government to defeat groups such as Jabhat al-Nusra. So this is sort of fanciful and kind of absurd. And Iran almost went to war with the Taliban in the 90s when basically the Taliban murdered a whole series of Iranian diplomats in Mazar Sharif, and there's actually murals dedicated to these diplomats in Tehran. So no, I think this is really just sort of fanciful and baseless, and just as baseless as this sort of allegation that the Quds force is undertaking assassinations across Europe, when the fact of the matter is that it's actually the United States, Mossad, with the help of the United States, has been assassinating Iranian civilian scientists over the last decade. So it just seems very fanciful, detached from the realities. And I'm not sure he's going to convince. I mean, obviously, there is a security and intelligence community. There's a whole sort of network of think tanks. Obviously, many of these have certain political agendas, but I think all of the more sober ones have immediately ridiculed this.
All right, so just to clarify, Eskandar made reference to Jabhat al-Nusra, which is the al-Qaeda franchise inside Syria, which Iran has been fighting. And actually, it turns out that U.S. weapons have made their way to as a result of the failed U.S. program to arm insurgents inside Syria. And Pompeo, during his speech, he also accused Iran of carrying out assassinations on European soil, though he did not provide examples. So finally, Eskandar, how do you think the Iranian people, even those who oppose the government, who've been protesting the government, respond to this, putting them in a situation where the U.S. is essentially asking their government to give up their foreign policy?
I think actually the Trump administration has actually really kneecapped Rouhani. I mean, if they were interested in a more moderate government in Tehran, they wouldn't have actually have done this, because the fact of the matter is now his sort of belief that this agreement would be able to be sustained and would yield genuine, tangible benefits economically and materially for the Iranian people has unfortunately been shown to be somewhat naive, or although there's still some hope that this still might be salvaged. Regarding sort of people's broader sort of views regarding foreign policy, of course, there's people who are very frustrated with many of the sort of domestic issues with which they face, whether it's economic stress and sort of strain, whether it's sort of clamping down on various sort of freedoms of expression. These all certainly exist, but from what I've gathered, many Iranians very clearly do see that this is a very transparent attempt to really call Iran to disarm itself without any guarantees of anything. And if the Trump administration can't even abide by the JCPOA, then I don't think Tehran or the Iranian people are going to be very convinced that they're going to sort of be faithful to a more comprehensive agreement. And especially when we have individuals such as John Bolton and obviously Mike Pompeo himself has called on the American military to bomb Tehran, and is very clear about he desires regime change. And Bolton obviously has in various op-eds called for the same. I don't think many Iranian people are going to take this seriously, and I think many will actually see through it for what it is. It's a sort of an attempt to call on Iran to disarm itself, so it's going to be a soft target, and God forbid, one day face the same sort of dangers or have the same fate as Iraq or Libya or one of these other countries who are now still recovering after many years and may never actually become the unified states which they once were.
In terms of what you said there about if the U.S. seeks a more quote unquote moderate government in Iran, this is the opposite path. I'm wondering if actually this could lead to more domestic repression against Iranians of the kind you talked about. If even under the JCPOA, when it was in effect, the U.S. was still violating it and still trying to discourage countries from doing business with Iran. The U.S. Congress passed a bipartisan sanctions bill that included more sanctions on Iran. So even then, Iran was being denied the deal's full benefits, and we saw those protests earlier this year. I'm wondering if the country is squeezed even more and people experience more desperation that leads to more protests, if then we then see an increase in state repression.
I don't think there's been like a direct correlation as of yet, but the fact of the matter is that every time that Trump has had threatened to pull out of the deal or to not actually endorse the 90 days sort of renewal of sanctions reliefs waiver, basically every time that happened and every time he sort of bellowed and was engaged in saber rattling, it really sort of detrimentally affected the Iranian currency, which has lost now a huge amount of value. And this obviously has implications for all sort of things with goods which are being imported, and obviously the cost of living, ability of Iranians to actually send money abroad, to actually send their children abroad for education and whatnot. This actually changes a huge amount. So even in terms of the currency battle, and this has had a huge impact for Iranians already. And we haven't even seen sort of the full effect of sort of sanctions and whether this is actually going to have sort of deeper and far more profound effects, which could actually, yes, very much provoke greater discontent, which could then obviously in turn provoke a reaction by the Iranian government, a repressive one. So, I mean, part of my fear was that maybe individuals such as Bolton and whatnot have a certain scenario in mind where they want to basically engender chaos and economic turmoil within Iran. And then if the Iranian government does come down, if you remember in January and December time when the last year's president, Trump very clearly said, "Oh, we are watching you," as a kind of threat. I don't think it was out of any concern for the Iranian people. So if such a scenario was to unfold once more, it would be very interesting to see if the Trump government would actually try and use this again to basically increase further pressure, basically mount a larger international coalition against, and basically step up the isolation or even maybe military sort of action of some description.
We will leave it there. Eskandar Sadehi, Research Fellow in Modern Iranian History at the University of Oxford. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on The Real News.